An international firearms and drug sting has seen Australian Border Force officers, US Homeland Security and the bomb squad descend on Bathurst in the state's central west. Charles Croucher is outside a home at the centre of all of this. Charles, a major police operation. Just what is alleged to have happened there?
Well, Lizzie, it's remarkable in this quiet Bathurst street. You might be able to see behind me there are still officers from Australian Border Force and the New South Wales Police here. They're cataloguing evidence from a raid that happened earlier this morning. It was a multi-agency raid, also a multinational raid, because 3 members of the Department of Homeland Security, that is the US Department of Homeland Security, were here to help with this raid. Inside, 9 News understands, was 36-year-old Rob Bettles. He is now assisting police with their investigations. They are inquiring into a number of gun parts that have sought to be imported from the US, Japan and Hong Kong, as well as Germany, here to Bathurst. And they'll allege eventually, it's believed, that Mr Bettles was involved in that process. This is the end of a 1-month investigations. Suspicions originally raised at the border when some of these parts were attempted to get in here to into Australia and therefore then back to Bathurst. Here's how Border Force authorities spoke of the issue this morning.
The bulk of the imports have come through our air cargo and our international mail stream. This probably sends a very strong message today of our highly trained people in the field, that if you are thinking about attempting to import goods across the Australian border, the Australian Border Force is there, have very sophisticated technology these days, highly trained officers that are there to detect these items coming across.
So a highly unusual sight here in Bathurst, but things got much more serious when during the raid police say they found a litre of a liquid that had crystallised. Now they weren't aware if this was some form of drug offshoot, if it was some form of explosive, and that's why they called in specialists from the chemical and bomb squads from Sydney. This entire street was cordoned off. That has since been removed, but police remain here at the house. Lizzie?
Charles Croucher on the scene there for us in Bathurst this afternoon.
This is 9 News Local.
Good evening, I'm Natasha Soper. A global firearms and drugs raid has seen Australian Border Force, US Homeland Security intelligence officers and the bomb squad take over a residential street in Bathurst today. Our reporter Naomi Avery joins us live from the scene. Naomi, it's been a massive operation. What happened?
That's right, Tash. It's been a long day for local emergency services, as well as US Homeland Security and Australian Border Force here in Bathurst. It all started shortly after 6 this morning when a search warrant began at a home on the corner of Violet and Prospect Streets, shutting the roads off for quite some time. A suspicious substance was found inside the granny flat, requiring hazmat crews and fire and rescue to set up a 50-metre exclusion zone and render the neighbourhood safe. Shortly after, the 36-year-old man was arrested at the scene and he's expected to be charged tonight. Police allege that man has been importing firearms and drug manufacturing equipment into the country. Take a listen to what Border Force had to say a little earlier.
The bulk of the imports have come through our air cargo and our international mail stream. This probably sends a very strong message today of our highly trained people in the field, that if you are thinking about attempting to import goods across the Australian border, the Australian Border Force is there, have very sophisticated technology these days, highly trained officers that are there to detect these items coming across.
We will have more on this developing story in the news at 6. Tash.
Thank you, Naomi.
Residents in a sleepy Bathurst street have been given the shock of their lives. US Homeland Security turning up on their doorsteps. The officers were helping our police and Border Force bust a global racket, but they were given a surprise of their own.
A raid at dawn, a multi-agency, multinational operation. American officers from the Department of Homeland Security, some of the dozens, descending on a quiet street in Bathurst.
Today has been an excellent result for both domestic, federal and international partners.
Inside the house, 36-year-old Rob Bettles. Police had been monitoring him for a month after suspicion was raised at the border.
The bulk of the imports have come through our air cargo and our international mail stream.
Australian authorities, with the help of Homeland Security, will allege Bettles was importing firearm parts from the US, Germany, Japan and Hong Kong, all bound for Bathurst. Officers conducting the raid found a crystallised liquid, causing a shutdown of the street as chemical and explosive experts moved in.
Well, I pulled the blind up, looked for the sun, and my wife says, "What's all these fire engines doing out the front?" I said, "What?"
Incredibly surprising, yeah, and scary, yeah.
The Chemical Operations Unit are in the process of decanting it out of the containers that we found them in into safe containers for storage back at the police station.
Neighbours describe seeing cars come and go at strange hours. They also say 3 children, including an infant, regularly stayed at the property.
Late this afternoon, Bettles was charged with a series of firearm offences. He'll front court tomorrow. Police expect more charges will be laid. In Bathurst, Charles Croucher, 9 News.